you might be aware that Dame Jacinda Ardern, the former Prime Minister, yesterday our time, gave a address, the keynote address, to the graduating class of Yale College in the United States of America, one of the finest and august of educational institutions in that country. God, we could only aspire to have, it has to be said, an institution like Yale and this, dear Lord, but we don't, and we've got nothing like it. Anyhow, there she was giving the graduating address to a whole series of young and presumably middle-aged people who had completed their diplomas and degrees and were now heading out into the large world. It was an extraordinary address in some ways. It was a pep talk, which most people give at these sorts of addresses. You know, off you go, you can be wonderful, you can change the world, all that sort of stuff, which is fair enough. And no one could disagree with Jacinda Ardern's not only right, but responsibility to give that pep talk. But then she said this, and it's, she said, we're living at a time where the small are made to feel smaller and those with power loom large, which is about any time in the history of humankind, in actual fact. She seems to separate this particular moment in time from everything else that's flowed before, and she encapsulated in that particular sentence. We're living in a time where the small are made to feel smaller and those with power loom large. Well, they've always loomed large, the powerful, and the small have always, well, franked small. I mean, it's just the nature of human existence. But she said, although she was only a visitor to America, she'd noticed that America was going sort of through a crisis, a sense of identity crisis, which was good of her to observe. And then she said this, you cannot remain untouched by the impacts of infectious disease, a trade standoff, a warming planet, because extreme weather doesn't respect borders. Oh, good on you, Jacinda. Good on you for pointing out the obvious. And far-flung wars, and you don't want them to take the lives of your citizens, but it will take away their sense of security and humanity. It was a mixed message, I have to say. It was, well, do you stay or do you go? Does the United States lead the world, or does it look after its own folk first? And really, at the end of the day, typical Jacinda, she didn't come to a conclusion, although she might have come to one if she'd had long enough to do it. But the real thing that she said is that the world is actually a dumpster fire. You know what a dumpster is? Well, apparently, according to Jacinda Ardern, the world is a dumpster fire. And then finally she concluded with her Politics of Kindness missive. She said, empathy has never started a war, never sought to take the dignity of others, and empathy teaches you that power is interchangeable with another word, responsibility, which is ultimately a word salad meaning something, nothing, and it's the sort of thing that I would have read, I guess, if not on a bumper sticker, because it's too big for a bumper sticker, but it'd be in one of those self-help books somewhere. You know, empathy has never started a war, never sought to take the dignity of others, and empathy teaches you that power is interchangeable with another word, responsibility. It is again Jacinda Ardern, and listen, I've talked about this before, but it is again Jacinda Ardern living in this faux paradise that she's created for herself, in which she's always been empathetic, she's always been responsible, she's never started a war, and the world may go to hell in a dumpster basket, but she can still appear as this virtuous soul in front of a whole series of new Yale graduates who must have looked at her and said, oh, how wonderful you are, darling, and seen the beatific halo that surrounded her as she spoke. Unfortunately forgetting the dumpster fire that was at the back of her, blazing and burning still brightly, with acrid and putrid smoke reaming out of it, which was New Zealand society and New Zealand economy that she'd left behind. Yeah, that dumpster fire, Jacinda. Be quite good, actually, next time you give a speech, or you're ever tempted to give a speech, Jacinda, just to turn around and have a look back at what you left behind. And look at today's events in Parliament. Look at what's going to have to be trying to be a budget on Thursday as you're trying to make sense out of the dumpster fire that is the New Zealand economy at the moment that you left behind, it'd be really, really good for you just to have a little bit of a look over your left shoulder. I don't care which shoulder you choose, but your left one you'd probably like. Turn over your left shoulder and just have a look at that one, Jacinda. And then think, should I be really lecturing much smarter people than me on how to live their lives and how to go forth in the world? Oh well, there's no such thing as an old hypocrite, is there? Those are my thoughts this morning. What are yours?